Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Ghosts and Spirits video. Alright, let's go ahead and we'll do another entry here based on one of your past suggestions this time. So yes indeed, I do go into the archives, and in this point I was able to pick one out that had some very interesting information, stuff I've never heard of before when it comes to this particular haunting. But what really fascinated me with it was the fact that it has to do with a painting. Those of you that are longtime fans of my YouTube channel, you'll know that whenever it comes to these almost curse-like items, I absolutely love that notion, the idea that you can put something like that in your home and then you either willingly or unwillingly bring about some strange things, apparitions, whatever, that might happen within your home now. So, in this case, it has to do with this, and you're looking at it right now, this painting here. It's called the Haw Branch Paintings, specifically because of the location that it's occurring, and it's all tied to this very painting, this innocent looking painting that's showcasing right now. So let's go ahead and we'll talk about all that information here for yourselves. So what is, or what continues to be, the Haw Branch Hauntings? Well, you have to go to a place called Amelia, Virginia, and within there, it's a small town of some sort, there's a home, which you're looking at a picture of here. This back then, though, I guess, who knows, maybe in the 1800s or so, used to be known as the Haw Branch Plantation. Very large plantation, in fact, 15,000 acres within its prime, which is unfathomable almost today. I mean, you go to any town and you're lucky to get like an eighth of an acre, especially if it's like a large, very populous town. But back then, in this case, 15,000 acres, that's what they had. And it was very stately. They had a very large chimney. They had a moat, if you could believe it. They had a whole bunch of these small outbuildings surrounding the home, far more than most other homes within that area. It was truly considered one of the best homes within that location. But lo and behold, cut to a couple years later, who knows what happened, but either somebody ended up dying out within the home, the children moved out. Either way, the home was left alone, as is. And so basically it was reduced into a state of disrepair just over the years. The lawns were unkempt, the home itself was slowly withering away. So it was almost as if it was just going to be left in time to rot away. But cut to the year 1964, and then that's when you had a couple by the name of Carrie and Gibson McConaughey. They looked at this property, in this case specifically, Mrs. Gibson McConaughey. She used to have a relative that lived in that home, a grandmother who lived many, many years before. And so wanting to be able to own that home again and I guess have it within her family, sure enough, they bought it. They restored it almost to its original condition, and then that's when they moved in thereafter. It was during this time period, though, that this painting came into play. So I guess during the home welcoming party of their new, I guess, move-in, they had a big party of some sort. One of their cousins, an elderly cousin that came in, he told them that he was going to give them a present for this new home, and it was a present of a long deceased relative by the name of Florence Wright. The way he described it was, and this is where things get more interesting, this Florence Wright herself, she died at a young age, but she died shortly before this painting was being commissioned of her. So in other words, there she was doing the thing I guess people did back then with these paintings where they would sit down and someone would paint them. Well, before that painting was finished, she ended up dying. I guess the painting itself was finished thereafter, but still, that's a pretty interesting bit of history just alone with that painting. So he told them that yes, the painting would be coming soon. They waited for it, it came out, and when they were taking out the painting, they were shocked to discover this. The cousin had told them that the painting was made in beautiful pastels, absolutely beautiful, just almost so colored, just colors popping out everywhere with regards to it. But lo and behold, they were shocked to see that the painting itself was completely black and white and grays, almost as if it was done 100% in charcoal rather than beautifully colored pastels. But in this case, it didn't really disappoint them, because thinking that maybe there was some miscommunication. They still decided to hang the portrait, in this case placing it in a prominent place above the fireplace in their library. So that was it, at least according to them. They thought that that was the end of it. But cut to a few days later, Mrs. Gibson McConaughey, she was in the basement just doing whatever down there, and then knowing that she was by herself, she suddenly heard women's voices coming from the library, the very same library that this painting was at. And so, thinking that some of her friends just let themselves in on their own, she told them that she'll be right up to see them. And so she started to go upstairs, again hearing these voices all the time as she was getting there. Then she turns the corner, right to the very corner of the library, and that's when the voices both stopped. And when she went into the library, she saw that nobody was there. The room was just completely empty. Crazy, right? Imagine, I mean, you would have to think to yourself, am I imagining this? Am I going crazy? But no, she looked around everywhere. Sure enough, she was by herself again within the entire manor, but she still had heard those voices. Cut to a couple months later, and then Mr. Carey McConaughey, he himself was sitting in that very same library reading a newspaper, and then something just made him look at the painting. Who knows what it was, but he decided to take a closer inspection at the painting, and then that's when he himself was shocked to see that the painting now, part of it was gaining color. In this case, the rose that was within the painting next to a vase, there, instead of it being like a muddy gray of some sort, it had now turned a color. In this case, it was more of like along the lines, I think, like a purplish color of some sort. And so he was completely, shocked at this, because he knew that with regards to the painting, everything was black and white, but now in this case the rose was color. And then cut to a little bit time later, the black hair that made up, in this case, Mrs. Florence's visage within the painting, it itself was turning into a different color. Her gray skin was now, instead of being gray, was now turning into a peach-like color, and it was as if the painting itself was slowly morphing into a colored painting, an actual black and white to a color painting. So if you can believe that. So crazy stuff. And as this was happening, more and more women's voices were heard coming from the library. Each time that happened and people came in to try to inspect it, they didn't see anybody there. Like it was the same thing again all over. Until finally the painting was 100% turned into color, and then that's when the sound of the women's voices stopped. Now, if you're thinking that things ended up stopping there altogether, you're in for a surprise, because the McConaughey's, they brought over somebody, a clairvoyant of some sort, to try to examine what was going on, because obviously they weren't going out of their minds, so something else was happening with regards to this painting. This clairvoyant said that because Mrs. Florence Wright's unfortunate demise, because of that, her spirit ended up being quote-unquote locked up in the painting, and so it somehow drained the color of the painting. But this same spirit didn't want that to happen, so it brought along, and this is all again according to the clairvoyant, it brought along two other spirits from somewhere else, who knows where, but with their assistance, because apparently these other spirits were painters themselves, somehow, some way, I guess, with regards to their previous life, they were painters of some sort. They were able to in turn restore the painting to the original colors, and then that's why once it was finished, there were no longer any, I guess, occurrences with them. But something else truly came through with regards to what was happening. Something else, I guess, awoke what was within the plantation, because cut to a little bit while later, and while everything else seemed to be fine within the library, that's when they suddenly started hearing something else. In this case, their attic, I guess, whatever the floor was towards the top, they suddenly started hearing one night very loud screams, huge, like loud screams of a woman, almost like the dying screams of a woman. And so when they went to find out upstairs, what was happening within that area, the screaming continued. But of course, when they went right up there, they saw nobody was there. Nobody was absolutely there. Even the dogs that they had there at that time wouldn't go up to that attic, and yet something was up there making those screams. And then besides that, they were able to see the apparition of a young woman. Somehow this young woman apparently used to live in that manor. She died of a younger age, and so one of the members of the family, saw her moving about within that manor, and it was someone dressed in period clothing as well, floor-length dress, old style of some sort. And so, again, whatever was the cause of this painting had awoken these ghosts and spirits within the manor. So, who knows what had happened to that young woman, but again, it's presumed that she had also died at a young age in a tragic way, and then that's why she seems to still stay within that manor. And then once more, there was another apparition of some sort, a housekeeper, if you can believe that, from the manor. Somehow they had ended up dying within that location, within that plantation too. They saw this housekeeper moving about somewhere within the manor, in this case closer to the porch, and when they approached it, these McConaughey's, that's when they saw this apparition basically disappear right out into thin air. And then one last encounter that they've had, at least one of the more recent ones, has to do with the fact that this plantation, of course, had a lot of workers for them. One of them was a farmhand who had died, they surmised, within that plantation over time. They saw this farmhand carrying a lantern, I guess almost as if it was repeating the work that this farmhand was doing back when it was alive. But when they approached it, it too disappeared outright. So very, very interesting stuff. So that is pretty much all the information associated with the Haw Branch Hauntings, all of course coming, the catalyst, with this painting. I don't know exactly, I was trying to see where this painting is right now, so I don't know if it's still there. Presumably it is within that same home, just standing there. I don't know if the home itself, if you can go there, take tours, if you're able to, I guess, visit it. A lot of the pictures that I found online seem to be from outside the home, so it made me think that it's not really a place that you can visit inside. But if anyone has more information with regards to that, anybody near Amelia, Virginia, if you so, please, if you can post those comments, let me know if it's a place that people can visit, if anyone has actually gone there and taken a look at the infamous painting, see if it's still there or if there's any other known hauntings occurring. That would be really good to hear too. So, alright everybody, thanks again as always, take care.